We break down defensive ends on the NFL draft next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. Make sure to rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. And still not the best at those intros. Always stumble over my words a couple times, PayPal. But we roll with it. And today we are, in fact, going to be breaking down the defensive ends out there because we need some help on this defensive line, and things are won in the trenches. PayPal, how you doing, my friend?
Not too shabby, Brad. Yeah, I think we just draft 7, 8, 10 defensive ends. I mean, I don't think we'd get enough of just anyone on the defensive line in general. So just let's get a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think this I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to go through these because we don't really have anybody out there. And when you have linebackers like we do, I mean, obviously D tackles are going to play a huge portion of what we need to get done. But yeah, these defensive ends, they get pressure on the quarterback. They can also eat up blockers so that your linebackers can attack. So this is crucial. And also, too, we've talked about this in the past before. The Bears do have the potential to add some of these veteran defensive ends as well in free agency. So maybe they do something like that. And I think they can have a little bit more flexibility with this. But that's why we're going to be breaking down 5 early round that you can get in day 1, day 2, and then 5 later round that you can get in day 3. But let's get this show.
Yannick is still available, right, Brad?
He is. Yannick's still available.
So yeah,
Clowney's still available.
Still like the younger defensive. He's the younger defensive end out of most of the other guys. So I mean, hey, he would still be a nice little pickup. And honestly, getting a guy like that, we could still have room for getting a high draft pick.
And here's something too, though. The Bears still need to spend $45 million. I think it was PFF Brad out there. Brad Spielberger was talking about this on Twitter, that the Bears have to spend a certain amount of cash. And it doesn't mean salary cap. It means cash. So the Bears do need to fork over some money and potentially some extra deals. And I think he said $45 million, and he included the rookie deals as well. So the Bears need to sign some people to some big money.
This year. That's this year. They have to use that much money.
So that's where I'm curious too. That's why I think they're probably in the works of some extensions, because they have to spend money. And why not spend a little bit of extra money on Cole Kmet maybe, or Darnell Mooney? Those rumors have been out there before that the Bears are looking at extending them. And is that why there's nothing really going on, right? And is that why we still have all this cap space? Because we're looking to do something like that. But I also saw too that Brad Spielberger was saying his personal belief, and he's the cap guru. He's like, I think that Ryan Poles is going to be looking at people as cap casualties going into the season, right? He's like, he's probably going to be busy at the beginning of the season. But personally, I wouldn't want to wait that long. I want stuff now. I want the team. But that's why we are going to be talking today about what we can at least do in the draft so we can get younger and get better. But like we said, the whole idea with the 5 is who would be available to us. So let's just go through 2 people that most likely will not be available for us, just so that we understand what's out there. Number 1, Will Anderson. With all the stuff with Jalen Carter, Will Anderson is definitely the number 1 defensive player out there. And really, there's not much else that we need to talk about. His comp is Khalil Mack. He's got amazing production for Alabama. He's most likely going number 3 to the Cardinals. If he were to drop and magically show up for the Bears, I think it's because people might just be questioning his limited skill set, where it's not like he's super, super limited. It's just limited from this if you talk about a number one defensive player, where he kind of uses a bull rush heavily, but then small other groups of moves. He's not an absolute samurai with his hands, but still very good player. If he's there, Bears are sprinting up to the board and drafting him. The other guy, Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, and this is the guy with the insane wingspan of 86 inches. 86
Wow.
inches. We'll talk about some offensive tackles with 70-inch wingspans, and that's impressive. 86 is insane. 6'6", 271, and yeah, this guy has all that you want from a physical ability, but I think it's pretty much a done deal. He's going to go to Seattle. Seattle loves their athletic defensive ends. I think that he's just going to be there, but similar thing, but he doesn't have the production. 8 sacks in 2022, 6 in 21, and 2 in 2020. Really attacks without a plan out there. Just needs to get a little bit better with his hands overall. But PayPal, anything you want to say about those two guys before we get into our actual 5 early rounders?
Yeah, keep it quick. I mean, if they somehow drop to us, we are clocking in right away. We're sending them the pick right away. Not even no hesitation.
Yeah,
so
for real.
And good evening.
Hey, T-Dub.
Whitfield, how you doing?
Yeah, so let's keep on moving then with the first person out there. PayPal, you got this guy. A lot of people are mocking the Bears with him, right? And I think it's important. This is most likely going to be with the first pick. It's Luke. If the Bears were to go defensive end, Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa, defensive end, sophomore, 6'5", 272. What else can you tell me about him?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, it's like, why would it would be kind of a reach. That's where it is interesting of would we get him exactly. He's kind of that mid. But yeah, he is basically just an athletic freak. He loves his bull rush. That's kind of the only move he really uses. I mean, it's fun watching him just use it because he just makes people look like, tackles just look like little kids, basically just pushing them over. And it's kind of that, like, Rashawn Gary type of thing, like power that you kind of see. But yeah, incredibly efficient with 18.8% pass rush win rate and then 46 pressures last year. So he is definitely proven. I mean, the one kind of knock too is like he didn't start, but I think everyone knows by now. It's like, okay, Iowa just doesn't play, they kind of play seniors and juniors over younger guys. So it's not like he was not playing because he was bad or, they thought he was worse than other guys just because that's just how Iowa does it. And I guess with that, it's like he got less snaps than you'd hope for from a younger guy to just see, can he be that, all play type of defensive end, which I definitely think he is just from his size. Like he can definitely play in the run game as well as the pass game.
I think that's what's kind of crazy about him too, right? He hasn't even played 1,000 snaps and people are projecting him in the teens, right? And like you said it, I totally agree. I think that majority of Bears fans are on the bandwagon, and myself included, that him going at 9 is a little bit rich, right? For someone who hasn't played all these snaps. But when you put on the tape, he is talented. He's very strong. He's very athletic. One thing to note too, he had 378 snaps at defensive tackle in 2021 and only 20 outside the tackle. So he played majority at D tackle. Then last year really kind of switched over to more D end, and that's kind of where he projects. But he is that bigger body that a lot of, as we see, that the Bears do like at that defensive end spot. So he is very productive. He does have good he's athletic. Reminds me of Trey Hendrickson a little bit. And actually, when you pull up the athletic numbers, it's practically identical with what Trey Hendrickson did at the combine. But yeah, if you're drafting someone whose ceiling is Trey Hendrickson, are you feeling good about that? And
Yeah.
I think that's where if the Bears traded back and got him, I wouldn't hate that. But it's I feel like there's so many talented players out there, and I'd rather just go offensive tackle than say
Mhm.
defensive end.
Yeah, offensive tackle for sure, and then even, yeah, a corner. There's a lot there's guys that are higher up in the draft where, yeah, I don't think it'd be very hard to see us drafting him at the pick we have now, but who knows? That could all change. Maybe there's still some trades going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
And you did say too, I just want to kind of highlight more what you said. He has been a good run defender as well, Lucas Van Ness.
Mhm.
Not like insane, but he can do that to a decent amount. But let's actually go over to the next one. I don't know how I got stuck with this guy because I'm actually not a huge fan of this guy. Or, like, because I think I see this guy as Cleveland Farrell coming up, and that's Myles Murphy out of Clemson, 6'5", 268, the junior. Now, that's not a good intro to anybody that we might potentially get. The reason why I wanted to include him in this is because he was seen as a very good defensive end. And he's that bigger body that can play at the outside defensive end for the Bears. And the reason why he reminds me of Cleveland Farrell is he's had good production and he has that big body size. He has some decent get off and just overall good size and speed combo at the defensive end that I do think that the Bears clearly covet. He just doesn't have a lot of bend to his game. So when he's attacking, he's not super flashy. And one of the big things was he was actually projected to be one of the top defensive ends right alongside Will Anderson, but he kind of fell off last year because when he was a freshman, he had 5 sacks in 2020, and people were like, dude, this guy's good. Then he comes out, he's the starter in 2021, gets 9 sacks. They're like, oh man, what's going to happen his junior year? It
Mhm.
comes out and gets 6 sacks. And honestly, kind of just teetered off. It seems like, okay, well, I'm just a good player. That's why he reminds me of Farrell. I think he's going to be a good player in the league, but I don't think he has as high of a ceiling as, say, like a Nolan Smith or even Lucas Van Ness. Honestly, giving the man some credit, but yeah, it just seems a little upright overall when coming around the edge. So I'm not in love with him.
Mhm.
But that's just my take. I don't know if you have a different
Yeah.
take on him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think honestly, yeah, his like 2021, he looked like, you know, Luke Van Ness, like of you saw that speed. It's crazy looking at his film of like his 2021 film and then his 2022 film. Like he looks slower, and people are saying that he had an injury. At least that's what kind of
Oh,
people
okay.
are claiming that he was injured. It wasn't like an official injury that actually took him out, but he was playing with like a lingering injury during the 2022 season. So, like, that's why. But that's like a scary thing of like, okay, is that thing going to be lingering then into the NFL, or is that like something that we don't have to worry about? Like, is are you going to go back to that 2021 year where you looked super fast and powerful? Because honestly, I didn't like him either when in the combine. I thought he just kind of he almost looked like the speed of like a D tackle. He just didn't look very fast, and
Yeah.
having size and speed as your um kind of combo, he didn't really jump out to me either at the combine. Where Lucas Van Ness, it's like okay, this guy's massive, chiseled, and then he's also the numbers are showing he's great.
Yeah, and so let's keep moving because like yeah, we said with Murphy, it's that okayness, and I think honestly the Bears are not going to get him. It's just if they do trade back, I think that is a potential. There is Nolan Smith. We're not going to cover him too much out of Georgia. He's the guy that blew up the combine at the defensive end spot with this crazy 4.39 40 time. Reason why we're not diving too far in is he's under 240 pounds, very lightweight for a defensive end. And yeah, like I can't see the Bears wanting that at pick number 9. But he is good athlete and also a good leader out there. But let's actually jump down to the second round. This is where now as we get into we're still in the early rounds, but if we don't get a Lucas Van Ness, right? who are some of the people we get in the second round? And I think this is why I say just wait, right? So one person that we're not going to touch too much on that's probably going a little bit earlier, so we're not going to highlight him too much, is Will McDonald out of Iowa State, a speed rusher, lighter weight, but a speed rusher you could get potentially in the second and might drop to the Bears. But we're going to highlight Felix Anudike Uzama out of Kansas State. We talked about him in the mock draft, 6'4", 255, junior. Hey, pal, what else can you say about this man?
Yeah, when we're talking about, like, you just kind of mentioned, like, all right, we're not going to look at this guy because they won't really fit our scheme, or they won't really fit what we're doing. I mean, when you think of someone that would fit our scheme, I really think Felix Azuma, whatever. I gotta just stop saying these long names sometimes.
You just call him Felix.
Yeah, I'll call him Felix. But yeah, he's kind of that all down type of guy that we really look for. I mean, some of these guys, it's like, all right, you only see their pass rushing. You only see, it's usually you only see their pass rushing. Like, that's what really gets people high on the draft board. But this guy has both. He has a high motor, and something that I always love hearing from a player is that they have great bend. Because that's something you just can't teach that bend,
Yeah.
You can't teach the bend. It's something that comes to someone, like, that just means they're flexible, they're pliable. And honestly, hopefully that just means he doesn't get injured down the road.
Yeah, true that.
Just being a little more pliable, a little looser joints and stuff. But yeah, I really like him. I mean, yeah, he was also very productive. 13 sacks, 2021, 8 sacks in 2022. Yeah, great hands. And just the one thing that's kind of not, I mean, he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest necessarily, so he's not the best athlete. And two, he just hasn't been the most consistent. Like, his plays are kind of up and down. But yeah, I like him just from that state of he fits this scheme and honestly kind of fits what we're trying to build for the Bears.
Honestly, what I love seeing too is I'm just looking at like typical draft position, and the number one team that he's being drafted by is the Bears.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's great because this is someone, when we're talking about where is he going, he's kind of going mid-second round. So if he can drop to us, that would be amazing because, like you said, I agree. He's an every down type of a player. Just to kind of give a little like scolding of him, I honestly watched a lot of Kansas State football. I don't know why, but I did. It was always on. And I remember watching him, and I'll be honest with you, he didn't necessarily jump off the tape like crazy, but when he made a highlight play, all of a sudden you're like, dang, that's like an all-pro out there. You see the flashes that he's able to present. And yeah, you said it, like, he needs to get a little bigger. He's not the perfect athlete, but yeah, to me, if he can just kind of set that edge a little bit better, with just some of his size, and just kind of honestly be a little bit more consistent with his play. Like, obviously you'll take the flash, but
Yeah.
I just want to see that constant like plus play out of him. But yeah, to me, you can get an every down starter in the second round. I really like this guy. But let's
Hey, maybe this is bold too. I mean, a lot of these guys that we're talking about, I think, I mean, up to this point, I honestly think for our next guy too, for sure, would be our number one pass rusher on this team, which is so sad to say.
It's
like
sad.
A guy that's going to be coming out, but even drafting into the second round, they're going to be our best pass rusher, and I don't think that's too much of a debate, honestly.
It is really sad. And this next guy, though, I actually really like. The more that I watch him,
too.
Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, junior, 6'5", 264, the comp, Yannick Ngakoue. So if we don't sign him, we got this guy, Isaiah Foskey.
Or we could have two.
For most people, like, I feel because we're Bears fans, a lot of us know about Notre Dame and what's going on. This is the career sack leader for Notre Dame. Notre Dame might have been around for quite some time, right? And it might have had some good football teams. He's the leader in sacks. and he's projected to go, honestly, in the second or third round, and it seems like a pretty safe bet. He's going to be available for us then, too. And this guy, we said, think about a Yannick Ngakoue. When you watch his tape, he's excellent at moving forward. Like, that's just what he does. He just moves forward. You can think about it like a Robert Quinn, too. The guy is fast. The guy is good at getting past people. But you got to set the edge. You got to play the run, and that's really where he's getting dinged up a lot of times. But something that I don't think people are talking about enough is how good of a combine he had. This is from Raz Math Bomb. They kind of compile they grab what he did at the combine and compare it to someone else and say this is the closest representation of it. Their closest representation of what they could say Isaiah Foskey did was Javon Curse.
Wow.
Javon Curse, the freak. And then do you know what like number 2 or number 3 was? Jadeveon Clowney. This guy is 6'5", 264, ran a 4.58. That's what Javon Curse ran at 262. And I don't think we're talking about this enough that's great. Ran a 1.6 10-yard split. Curse 1.61. Very athletic, like surprisingly athletic, and no one's talking about it. And Foskey, though, that's where like good leader for the Irish, got the production. But yeah, and some people even gave him the label like the off-brand Van Ness because he's still kind of like a little power, a little rush. I don't necessarily see it too much, but it's the speed, but you don't see a lot of that run defense out of this guy. And if you can get him with like your second round pick, if Felix Ndike Uzoma is not there, this could be someone that can get pressure on the quarterback and has a pretty good ceiling. But PayPal, you're saying you like this guy too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You hit on the head with him. I really like him. And it's just crazy like that he's even projected even in the third round, like definitely early, but like, I mean, obviously it seems like Uzoma is going to be, fall to us, but Foskey would be not another not too bad option. And honestly, more kind of explosive option if we want to say that. Kind of not as much of a two-way player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always loved, Notre Dame's always a really good school. When you think of like defensive ends, tight ends, offensive line, kind of those big boys up front on either side of the ball. So great school, and I love it.
Yeah, and let's go to our last in the second round. This was really hard because you have BJ Ojolari out of LSU, looks very good on the end, but kind of projects more into a 3-4 system. Tuli Tuipulotu out of USC. We were going to cover him, but PayPal would have to say his last name, and I would have to say his last name too. But he's out of USC. He can play inside. He can play outside. And also Andre Carter, the second out of Army. He's been kind of dropping, was seen as a first-round prospect, but really had a bad Senior Bowl and just has been plummeting. But there is someone, though, that is kind of projected to go he's like a definite third-round guy. That's Derek Hall, the defensive end senior out of Auburn, 6'3", 254.
Yeah, he's got an elite get off, and that's something that's what we see in a lot of these elite pass rushers now. It's like really caring about that first step. That's where it really comes down to that tackle, defensive end matchup is like who can get off the quickest. And I mean, that was a big debate with Lane Johnson this year of people would always say he false starts every single down. But anyways, it's like he's got that those intangibles of like that get off, that he's got those long arms for his size. I mean, 6'3", 254, and still produced it pretty darn good. I mean, 10 sacks 2021, 8 sacks in 2022. That 254 is kind of small. Like, you can see in his picture. I mean, he's freaking defined as heck. So like you can definitely add some more weight. So that doesn't seem too much of a worry for me. I think size is kind of like, as long as you're not like, super skinny, kind of like that Andre Carter. Like, sorry to say Andre Carter, but like you're not going to fit in our scheme. Like that's kind of a 3-4 type of scheme for Andre Carter. But I love his pass rushing ability. Obviously, when someone's kind of smaller, it's like, all right, can they really defend the run? And that's kind of why he's in the 3rd round.
I think we're also saying like the same thing. It sounds like we're on repeat with everything where here's another guy that can rush the passer, but the run, not so much. And I think that's what you're getting out of a 2nd round person, because the first round, they can kind of do it all. That's where Anudike Uzomah kind of has more of that all around game. Even like a Thule out of USC can kind of do a handful of both. But yeah, Derek Hall, I'm actually not super high on him just because watching some of his tape, I just see when he doesn't get that step, right? After he doesn't get that first step on you, you really don't see him do anything else. And I think about like a Robert Quinn, we saw how much he diminished. But yeah, if he doesn't get that first step, he's really stonewalled, doesn't have any counters to his game. And yeah, like even though he's 254, it's weird because it seems like he's small for a DN, but like too big, like doesn't know how to play outside linebacker, even though we wouldn't really need that. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of him, to be honest with you, but I think it's just that get off, right? And like you said, that get off is something that can kind of take him to that next level and really kind of blow people away if he's able to kind of get that refined and get that working at the NFL.
I
But
agree.
But let's keep this show on the road. That is the 1st and 2nd day. A couple other people that we left out. Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin. He's about 240, so projects more as kind of that outside linebacker. But then some of the other people that we purposely missed, we think that they might play more of a D tackle in the Bears system, or even like a Keon White. Just not a huge fan of him. Can't really see the Bears getting him. But let's move on to the later rounds. So later rounds, this is where we can find some gems. There's some good players out here. And I'm actually going all the way to the 7th round pick with this guy. This guy impressed the heck out of me, PayPal, when I was watching him in the Senior Bowl. I like this guy, Lonnie Phelps out of Kansas. We're going 7th round. This is like diamond, like his comp to me is James Houston out of the Lions, where he was able to come in and give meaningful reps. This guy was like 400th. And then I remember watching the Senior Bowl. This dude won every rep during that game and looked absolutely dominant. And that's where I really like him. And yeah, he's 6'2", 244. That's why he's kind of going in the 7th. He's undersized. I don't expect this guy to all of a sudden be a beast and just start destroying people. Crazy thing, he's just an inch shorter, a little less than an inch shorter than Vic Beasley. And that's kind of what Raz has for his athletic comp. Vic Beasley obviously didn't perform too great, but it is at least nice seeing that. He ran a 4.55 for his 40. Yeah, 18.9% pass rush win rate, 87.3 grade in true pass sets. So that means when he pins his ears back, he's going to do well. And that's what you want to see out of a 7th round pick, where you can say, hey, listen, kind of like what the Lions did with James Houston. They said, hey, we're going to put you out here on 3rd down and see what you can do. And that's where I like in the 7th round, just throwing picks around. And I think he could be very good value, high motor, which obviously the Bears love. But yeah, just because he doesn't have the physical measurements, he could be a good depth player inside of a rotation. I think he's definitely, you're going to see him out there, and he's either going to be like, all right, this guy can play in the NFL and be a decent player, or they'll look at him and go, well, he sucks. Well, he had a good he had a good draft week, and that's about it. But he is someone that's later on that could be a little gem.
Yeah, hey, Vic Beasley at 7th round, I'm fine with that. Even though he's not panning out to be as good as he was hoping to be. I mean, I still liked him as, first 2 years when he was with the Falcons. Like he's very explosive and fast. So Vic Beasley, 7th round, let's get him.
Yeah, let's go. So PayPal, let's go over to another player though that we have out here. And yeah, we're going to be a broken record. This is another great pass rusher, projected to go in the 4th round. Byron Young, out of Tennessee, senior, only 6'2", another 6'2" person at 250.
Yeah, it's weird that we actually just talked about tackles, but the size, like the height and stuff isn't too big of a deal for me for some reason. Rather than like tackles, it's really like, oh wow, like 6'4", like they can't be a tackle, you know. But Byron Young, I like him. I mean, he's got that burst again, kind of like Derek Hall, where he's got that quick, I don't want to say quick get off, but he's got that quick first step. And with the speed at 4.4, he had a 4.4 340, so he's quick, he's fast. And man is definitely chiseled, so he can add some weight too, even though he is 250. And yeah, it's just kind of adding that mass and power. And he Raz has him kind of as Khalil Mack,
Yeah.
kind of coming out of Buffalo.
That's a little rich, but yeah,
it's a little rich, but hey,
little rich.
It's just that physical, his combine stats. So nothing, not about his play. Khalil Mack definitely had better technique, better play than this guy. Not downgrading Byron Young, but definitely fourth rounder because he is his age. He's 25, so it kind of, that always worries me of like, all right, like if he gets signed, like he's gonna have to do something right away. It's kind of like that Velus Jones, how it's like, all right, you're a little bit older of a guy, like you got to start producing now. Like time is kind of your enemy right now. So I he's not bad. I'm not in love with him, but I think he would be a good kind of like later round if just to add more depth to this defensive line.
I'm actually kind of a fan of him though. I'm on
Yeah.
kind of on the opposite side just because like I don't know. I liked what I saw at the combine, and yet again, underwear Olympics. So it's just athleticism, but like you see the athlete that he is. And something that was really fun to watch on tape was just the way that he could like lock in. And that, to me, it's like the humming missile going after a quarterback. He just flies to him and just like seeks him out. Yeah. He, like, there is something to be said though. Like last year he got 11 sacks, and the year before 8 sacks. Now 8 sacks is still good, but it's always nerve-wracking when you see a 25-year-old out there, because you're a grown man out there playing against 20-year-olds. Like you're gonna look good, and you're gonna look great. And he wasn't able to really hold the line. I'm looking at the PFF grade, 56.9 run defense grade, and the tape shows it. He wasn't a good run defender, but it's like, you're a grown man. You should have grown man strength against these guys. That is the fear. That's why he's going in the 4th. But I do like the upside as the pass rusher. And that's where, like, you keep seeing, like, everything that we're doing. A big reason why I like the idea of the Bears getting Jadeveon Clowney in free agency is because majority of these guys don't know how to play the run. And majority of these people that you're getting are pass rushers that you want to, like, that's what they wanted to do with Dominique Robinson. But turns out Al-Qadim Muhammad's not good. And we traded Robert Quinn. Like, if you just have a younger player that you tell them just to attack the quarterback, it's a lot easier from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And when Dominic Robinson, they're like, all right, you're actually kind of starting now. It's funny
like,
how
what?
his
Sure?
production actually went down, just probably because he was more tired and he actually had to focus like on defending the run. When it's like, all right, if you're a guy like this, when it's like you're coming on passing downs, then it's like, all right, I could just focus on doing my pass rush move and not have to worry about, all right, am I gonna have to block shit this guy to defend the run? So yeah. Hearing more about Jadeveon Clowney, like, why not? We got to spend money, so just do it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's keep on moving on to see a little bit more on the defensive end perspective. We're going with one of the Louisville defensive ends, Yaya Diaby. And this guy projected 4th round, projected 5th round. He's more of a late round guy, like obviously late round guy. But this guy's got some weird, freaky athleticism, PayPal. Like, watching him on tape, you see Louisville 6'3", 263. I swear when I see him on tape, the guy looks thin. I don't know how he puts this weight on. But yeah, 263. A good comp is kind of Boye Mafe out last year out of Minnesota, is a similar body size, or actually athletically very similar. But when watching his tape a little bit more, he's impressive. 16.1% pass rush win rate, but also decent, at least from the run defense perspective. He's got a great frame, and this is where I think that the Bears might be looking at him. We've talked about this before. It seems like the Bears like the frame and the size at defensive end. Yet again, we haven't seen too many picks. We haven't seen everything that they've done. It's just been 1 year. But if they do like someone with a good frame, Yaya Diaby's that guy. And he can still add a good amount of weight onto his frame. He just has natural strength. It just kind of freaks you out. But yeah, 10 sacks last year, according to PFF. The reason why I put that out there was because PFF doesn't track half sacks. So they gave him a lot more credit for sacks that I guess he didn't get. But also a 1, 5, 6, 10-yard split. It's freaking insane. He's ran over 20 miles per hour. It's just crazy. But still, even though that he's super, super fast, when I see him play, he plays with like these stiff legs. I didn't want to say cement shoes because that's Ebner's thing.
That's
Ebner's thing. He just plays with like stiffness in his legs. And also, I've never seen him do a counter. I don't see him doing counter moves on tape. And that's where coaching can probably help him out a little bit. Like we said, this is a good athlete. He's played well. If his first move hits, he's going to do well. And that's why he's going to 4th round. That's why he's going in the 5th round and could be a good project piece that the Bears pick up.
Yeah, I kind of like him. I personally like him a little bit more than Byron Young just because he has the more of the physical traits. Like I think I'm always split between these guys that kind of have the 263. Like I feel like that's more of a D end. Maybe I'm still a little old school, but I like having that bigger D end. Hand in the dirt rather than just 2 feet on the ground. So I like this Diaby guy, and he's an athletic freak, so that's always an added bonus.
Like what Damon says out here too, like you can never have enough pass rush. That is complete, like totally. You cannot have enough pass rushers out there. You can't have enough players. That's where too it's nice to have Walker because he can play that D end. He can play that D tackle as well. Also, I got to give call out Tiff saying another linebacker got signed. Is Jack Sanborn losing his job? Nah, we can't.
No,
the man,
come on,
the myth, the Sanborn. No, the guy that we signed today out of Titans. First off, we are the Chicago Titans. I think we just got to change our name when we move to. We'll be the Arlington Titans. I think is what our new name is going to be. But yeah, he's more of a special teamer, it seems. But yeah, so let's see. Let's see. What we go over. Let's go over to this player. How about this? Let's go to Jose Ramirez next.
Hey, talk about not having enough pass rush. I mean, Jose Ramirez, Brad. I mean, this is where it's like, okay, if we get, say, like, even if we get a guy in like the 2nd round, like, we're talking about, if we get Felix Uzama, like Isaiah Foskey, I would be pretty happy if we actually drafted someone like this guy in the 5th or 6th round. I mean, he's got a 21.5% pass rush win rate. And not too bad in the run. I mean, he's 10.6 percent run stop rate. And he's just very aggressive with blockers. And so I really like. He's a great player. I really like his production's been great, and just on that kind of that theme of why not just add more pass rushers? And I think this is a perfect guy of like, all right, in the later round we can get. He is a senior, but still, like, just add more pass rushing ability, even though he's still decent in the run.
Yeah, I agree. And Jose Ramirez is someone that when you put on the tape, this dude literally just dominates a game. And it's rare that you find someone doing that. Look good at the combine. And yeah, 5th, 6th round. And like he's similar to Lonnie Phelps when it comes to the overall size, where he's still at that 6'2", 240. Big reason why he's going later on. Yeah, why not take a flyer on him? If you have him in the 6th round, like
Yeah.
we need pass rush help. We need other people out there that can do something. And that's where, yeah, Jose Ramirez is definitely someone to at least be on the lookout for. But yeah, going back, the big question is, do we prioritize the size? Do we like having that length? And is that something where the Bears go, Ramirez, Phelps, you're just not on our board because, or not necessarily on our board, we don't prioritize you as much because we want that size, we want that length. That's definitely something that we're going to see and understand this year for sure.
Yeah, he definitely can add to the pass rush. So I'm kind of all in of like, yeah, like maybe, yeah, like you're talking about Lonnie Phelps of like,
Yeah,
they are undersized, but like you can see like it is a little undersized for like our type of scheme, I guess.
true.
But hey, who knows? Like these guys are a little bit later. Like maybe they can add some weight to them, add some weight, and then they'll be ready for the NFL.
Oh yeah. So let's go to our last one. It's crazy to think that we're already at the end. Last one that we got, our 5th and final, Isaiah McGuire out of Missouri, senior, 6'4", 268. The comp is kind of Preston Smith. And this guy, on the flip side, he can set an edge. This is one of the only people out there that really can set an edge. Good run defender, projected in the 4th round. But the big weakness is that burst. You don't really see a lot of it. And when you put on the tape, I didn't see that. And I think it also shows up in his actual 40 time that he ran. His 40 time, you see, he had a good 4.76 is not terrible.
Yeah.
But then the 10-yard split, I actually thought that he had a bad one. I thought that it was, I guess that Braz, I swear to God that his 10-yard split was actually bad. But I guess I found the wrong 10-yard split. So we'll scratch that. I swear that it was bad. But yeah, I don't see a lot of the burst though on tape at least, right? It's about tape. And I didn't necessarily see that, but he does have a lot of power to his game, has a big rip move. And as long as you have kind of at least two really good moves that you've perfected, that's great. And I think that in the 4th round, this is someone that seemingly can do it all at the defensive end position. 7 sacks last year, 6 the year before. So not crazy production, but who needs production when you have a 17.2% pass rush win rate? So he's able to get around the edge. He's able to put pressure on the quarterback. He's got the strength you want, and he's got essentially that size. And that's really where the Preston Smith comparison comes into play. He's someone not a lot of people talk about, but it really seems like with that top 4th round pick, he could be someone on the Bears' radar.
Yeah, I like him. He kind of has all the kind of traits and something like not having enough like pass rushing stuff. It's hard because it's like someone like Lucas Van Ness also doesn't doesn't have that many pass rush moves. So that's where I always think of like it really plays into, all right, how smart is this guy? How, are they coachable? And honestly, do we have the coach to actually coach some of these young guys? And that's a big thing. I mean, do we have the defensive line coach? I think we still haven't figured it out. We really have no idea if our defensive line coach is good yet. Just because it's like, all right, we don't really have, we really haven't given you much talent. So that's, and we were talking about the offensive line, there'll be an episode for people to hear later, but it's like, all right, we can develop offensive line. We saw how we developed Braxton Jones. We see how we, kind of transformed Tevin Jenkins into being this guy we're going to cut basically, and then putting him to right guard, like finding him his home. And then, but our defensive line, our coach, well, he'll get tested with some of these rookies if we do get them.
That is the big question. And because it's about the development. And I know at D tackle, there's a lot of development that needs to happen. At D end, there's a lot of that needs to happen. I did also see out in the chat, we had some questions out there like would we mind the Bears trading for Ed Oliver? And T-Dub, you're right. Like it would be a $10.753 million cap hit that would be off the books for the Bills. So the Bills want to move him, but he's going into a final year of his contract. Personally, knowing that you have to pay him, I think Ed Oliver is going to want a bigger contract than what he's worth. He's a good D tackle. He's an undersized run defender at 287. I like him. I think he's good, but that whole idea of getting his next contract, I don't know. I'm not a big fan. What about you, PayPal?
Yeah, I always liked Ed. I think he's a great player. But perfect with what you said of like he wants too much, and I think he's gonna expect too much money from him, and it's crazy. I was like all about like spending money, but I think just what the Bears have done so far really proves, and I really believe now of like, all right, let's be patient with the money. Like, don't just spend it all in one place where it's like, we saw where we were able to get 2 linebackers for the price of Roquan Smith, where it's like, all right, if you just wait and spend the money correctly for these guys that, aren't asking a huge amount of money and are these big names that come with that price tag.
I wouldn't mind Buckner because Buckner at least has, I think, 2 years left. And also his entire contract is not guaranteed anymore. So that means that the Colts can just move on and save a whole bunch of money. And that trade I wouldn't mind as much. He is a veteran. You could at least have some veteran presence out there. And, we keep hearing about the 3 technique, how we need that in this defense. That 100% solidifies it. That gives you veteran leadership. The dude's also like, the level of Buckner versus Oliver, I think, is also a lot higher. And if you can trade around the same type of a pick and get someone who I think is a lot better, yes, older, I think that would be great, especially with the familiarity with the flu system. I like that a little bit more than, say, Ed Oliver. But
DeForest Buckner he's been a disruptor, ever since on the 49ers and then the Colts, and then
he always wrecks us. He always wrecks us.
And he's got a cool name. I always liked his name. I think it's a cool name.
Yeah, I think DeForest is just a sweet name, but yeah, I hope you guys learned something today with like some of the defensive ends. We went through 5 early, 5 late, but yeah, to us, the big pieces, there's not a great amount of talent. If someone like a Tyree Wilson or a Will Anderson, most likely they're not going to fall, but that second round seems to be the sweet spot. That 10 picks that the 3 picks in the 10 pick span seems to be the sweet spot if we want to get a defensive end out there. So we'll see. Let me know down below who your favorite defensive end prospect is. Is there anyone that you love that we didn't talk about because we only went through 10 people? But make sure to subscribe. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and